Part one of this book is dedicated to the memory of my brother Akiva, who died of a massive heart attack in 1986 at the age of 41. I'm going to read a long excerpt from a long narrative lamentation titled Days of Kivi. It was written in 1969 when Kivi was 23 and I was 25. I went on revising it for the next 46 years, longer than Kivi was alive. This is the first time I'm reading it in public, and in preparing for the reading was the first time I ever read it aloud. So this is in fact only the third time that anyway. Part of the process of finishing an unfinishable work. The poem describes the household in which we grew up, caught in the double bind between our parents' cosmopolitan cultivation and progressive politics on the one side, and their conservative psyches stamped made in the shtetl on the other. Between their demand that we achieve great things in the world and their condemning us for betraying them if we tried to leave home. Reality was muddled between idealizing myths regarding the Yiddishist concept of person, the mensch whose caring sustains and repairs the world, and the hidden Cain and Abel rivalries that damaged our parents as well as our lives. A few notes. Riva is the name of our sister. Rita was the woman to whom I was married in the late 60s. Baba means grandmother in Yiddish. Mold and fiasco refers to an event recounted earlier when Kivi was seen talking to a 12-year-old girl on the street. Already under suspicion as a bearded Jew hippie, he was beaten up and driven out of town, returning to 3 paralyzed months on Mama's sofa. The excerpt I've selected begins in the middle of the poem and comes to an abrupt halt in the crisis at the heart of the poem. In this crisis, the myths that bound us to an illusory home were shattered, and Kivi and I each sat out alone on our own separate diaspora to find a world to live in, to find out who we were. Here, then, is a portrait of the anguished, extravagant, extraordinarily gifted man who was my brother. With clenched fists, you tell of all-night meets at Bickford's taking on all comers, with one-upping the Shakespeare scholar at the West End bar, the novelist at Rienzi, stealing the medical student state at Carnegie Hall, doing lines of coke at the Port Authority bus terminal, with the Louisiana runaway you picked up at the Grand Central Station, kept a few days, and turned over to your buddy, with City College girls from Riverdale, drawing lots using cruel methods. You end each episode in silent fury or a short burst of laughter, throwing down a challenge. Can you beat this? With your universal erudition making you fit to take on Professor H, who gave you a C on your Troilus paper. With dropping out of the CUNY doctoral program to concentrate on your opera career. With your recitals in nursing homes interrupted by occasional thuds, canes dropping out of palsied fingers, rows and rows of white hair or blue-tinted or bald heads, nodding in time, beaming up at you, adoring your full young basso. With Papa in the peach-colored auditorium, eating you up. With Bubba taking credit after the concert. With your voice still filling the room with memories of voices still in bloom. With the tenderness in you coming out, finding a haven among the old ones. With singing Leporello's arias in the subways, zapping the rush hour. with a courteous word to a cursing salesman, zapping the bourgeois mentality, with your zap gun ready for use at Cousin Harriet's wedding, with frantic subway excursions to the Bronx to conduct hearings in the case of Papa, with acts of inquest, with orphanage silences, with your breakfasts on Sunday morning at Bubba's and Open Secret, driving Mama to fits of jealous shrink talk, with egging on Reva to make it with your pals, with your 10 by 10 cubicle in an SRO brownstone off Central Park West, your home since the Malden fiasco, with hardly enough room to get to your dining room table, the piano stool, with gates on your windows, grand ballroom ceilings, 18-foot-high bookcases towering on either side of the upright piano like the facade of a Gothic cathedral in miniature, with late-night TV, days you speak to no one but your mirror, with your spanking new dungarees topped by a starched white shirt with black bow tie, antique gold watch chain draped over your stomach, a graduation gift from the folks, with your Einstein hair, with your letters to famous men of letters, winning respectful responses to your theoretic, with Marshall McLuhan and Theodore Reich encouraging you to continue your investigations, with your pot in a cheese box on your windowsill. With the mystical poetry you write, you plow up asphalt and tarmac and release lost spirits re-enchanting the world. With your mafia supplier meeting you at the Hadassah Bazaar. With dealing ounces cut right to the cognoscenti at small press book fairs, and to your regulars on the corner of Columbus and 83rd, with your appreciative laugh coming a bit too soon, with making the rounds at all hours, getting thrown out of Mama's house for acting weird, making insulting remarks just before the dinner guests were due to arrive, dignitaries from the world of Jewish communal service. Trying Bubba's next, looking to score a salvific connection, nothing doing. From there back up Gun Hill Road under the Woodlawn Jerome tracks past the cemetery. To Riva and Norman's near the reservoir, crazy with cold, shoes soaked through by the snow, freaking them out in no time. And so, turning up at my place a day later in the slush dead of winter. An old Russian army greatcoat thrown over your shoulders, one of the hand-me-downs you got from me, worn like a mantle, empty sleeves dangling, fists pounding against my door, crying, "Brother! Brother! 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 Open up!" Kivi, you went crazy believing my hex was the real power blocking your genius career. You cracked up in December 1968, you unraveled me. Marching through my doorway like General de Gaulle, under the Arch of Triumph, passing through my rooms as if they were old Nazi headquarters. Looking into cabinets and closets for evidence, sniffing into Rita's underwear drawer. When you got the shakes and tore the royal red comforter from our bed and wrapped it around you, your face frozen and glaring, ordering tea, demanding I serve you, speaking incomprehensible sophistries in a Richard Tucker profundo, between conundrums telling me what a schmuck I am, how you pitied me, what a fool you'd been for submitting to the old law of primogeniture, blinded to your own stature, you, the all-round man and match of anyone you might meet in the night of your wanderings, grand unmasker of lies, emigrant who made the crossing out of family exile into plowshare Zion, with hatred radiating out of your monumentality, a shape disembodied by robes, immobile, ghastly. You said, I ripped off your brain waves. You had come back for them. When you stripped and wriggled nakedly around the kitchen, flapping your hands, singing a little falsetto reprise, la-di-day, then folded your legs under you suddenly like a camel and sat at my feet, looking up with mocking disciple eyes, which turned to blue ice, declaring tyrannicide. With the knife gleaming on the counter, a pulse away from your right hand, afraid for my life, I saw you at last. I saw you cast off the delusive and wretched sanity that denied you your birthright, and assert the truth of every child born, that the last shall come first. I stayed home from work for a week. I was in mourning. Rita held me all night. I wept. I spewed out the stories. Every night for a week she stayed up with me. Stories of how I got the paint sets and the praise. All my guilt at having been favored. What's so unusual about that? Rita said. I told her how Papa had favored my gifts over yours in exchange for the paintings I made. He raised me up in the house as the son in whom his greatness was plainly visible. An old story, Rita said. Crushed by your memories, I cried how you ran after me at age 4, calling my name in Yiddish. I left you behind to play with my friends, the 6-year-olds, who didn't call me Mati. And once, age 8, I went wild with rage. Mama and Papa couldn't pin me down to their bed, with my arms breaking loose, my legs flailing dangerously, my voice hoarse with screaming, I want to kill Kivi! I want to kill him! How human. How human, Rita said.